Welcome one and all to Everything Under the Sun Belt, a college football podcast. We're back again for episode 4. I'm here with Easton John once again. We were going to try and get a third member on, but I think we're going to hold off on that until next episode. Easton, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing great. Great week of college football and great week for Sun Belt football as well.
Yeah, I do believe so, as there's a lot of out-of-conference games that we had, and we're going to get into those Week 9 game reviews. This week, we're also going to preview some of the games in Week 10, which there's a lot of games that don't really seem like they'll be interesting, and that's just kind of how the cards fell. And then our segment that we're going to have at the end of the show is one that you brought to me today.
Yes.
And what is that, if you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. If we want to just tease it right now.
Yeah.
It's just upcoming, we're getting to the time where Sun Belt awards are going to come for football. So it's early predictions for SBC awards that consist of Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep, so we'll let y'all ponder that. I might leave that as a question in like the Spotify questionnaire thing on.
Yeah.
Try and get some feedback from like all 5 to 10 people that might listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get going, we'll go ahead and do our personal plugs like we normally do. You can follow me, Brady, on X/Twitter at bmichael, with Michael spelled Michael, replace the I with a 1, and over on Instagram at Brady_Michael, with Michael the same way. And Easton,
you can follow me on Instagram at easton.john_, that is EASTON.John, JOHN.
All right, let's go ahead and shift into our Week 9 game reviews. And you want to start with Old Dominion and Liberty. This undefeated Liberty team got a chance to face off against an Old Dominion team that came off of a really close game against James Madison that we thought would be way in James Madison's favor the week prior. And it seems like they left everything on the line and on the field in that game. Liberty 38, Old Dominion 10. You look at the stats, Old Dominion still struggling to find any production out of Grant Wilson. 23 of 42, 161 pass yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Had a lot of success on the ground, and we didn't see a lot of the running game like I figured they would. And they ended up relying on Javon Harvey in the passing game. 12 catches, 76 yards, was their leading receiver there.
Yeah, right. And Old Dominion, Grant Wilson just not getting it done with the pass game. I mean, you see, that is not good. 23 of 42, 161 passing yards. He had a tutty, but, 1 interception, that's going to kill you. I think Liberty just took advantage of Old Dominion's defense not being able to execute a pass scheme for defense. So, if you're looking at right now, Slater or Salter, 13 for 22, 225 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 41 rush yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. That's a game for him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of an interesting side of this game is you get the former Coastal Carolina coach, and so he's facing off against an Old Dominion team that he has some familiarity with.
Right.
And they really just put it to him. And the running back that I was thinking of, and I couldn't think of his name, but Kadarius Callaway is the guy for Old Dominion that's been averaging like 11 yards per carry. And just not a lot of production in this game. Liberty was sure to shut him down. And Liberty's defense, 5 sacks, 11 TFLs. Old Dominion's offensive line just destroyed from that James Madison defensive line the week prior.
Right, you said it. Liberty just had a game on defense. 5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss. That's crazy, and that's what you got to do against teams like Old Dominion.
Yeah, and I'll say I've had a lot of shade I've been wanting to throw at Liberty because of how weak their schedule is. And seeing that Old Dominion was able to put up a fight against James Madison, maybe this Liberty team, a little bit more respectable than I once thought. And Caden Salter is a redshirt freshman quarterback, so they're doing it with a kid, although he was a former 4-star commit to Tennessee.
Give him some respect, man. Give him some respect.
Look, they're going to win the CUSA, no problem. And speaking of James Madison, they got to have fun with this UConn Husky team, beat them 44-6, and we've got some numbers that James Madison put up in this game. You want to get into those offensive stats here?
Jordan McLeod, 33 for 37 for 457 yards and 4 touchdowns. Do I really need to explain it, Brady? Do I really have to explain it?
I don't think so. What? Explain
it?
Yeah,
and then Reggie Brown, 9 receptions for 202 yards with an average of 22 yards whenever he gets the ball, and 2 tutties with an 80-yard long pass. I mean, he's getting open.
He has become the target for Jordan McLeod. Early on in the season, it was his tight end. And Reggie Brown started coming up with just about 8 to 9 to 10 catches a game, probably getting close to 100 yards. And then all of a sudden, the past 3 weeks, he's exploded.
Right.
And he has jumped up to, if I remember seeing right this morning, 3rd in the Sun Belt in receiving yards.
Right. And I think, if you look at over at UConn as well, I mean, they had a pretty average game, but they just could not find the end zone.
And not many teams have.
Not many teams have against that JMU defense, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that defense is successful later on in the episode.
Yeah, I'm going to say just not much more to speak on in this game, but 457 yards from Jordan McLeod. I don't care how bad of a team UConn is this year. It's a really good passing stat line for a guy that's really needed to prove that he can do that.
Mm-hmm.
App State, they got to travel to Atlanta, old ATL, take on Georgia State, and they creamed them. It was 42-14 in favor of App State, and a lot of that can be credited to a balanced running game, but more importantly, Joey Aguilar having 255 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns. Not a great passing game as far as completions, but still, you can see a lot of chunk plays just based on that one stat.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not like a balanced running game. They relied heavily on the run game when it came to it. If you see there was 4 running backs that got involved in this game. I mean, you got Nate Knoll, who had 10 carries, 86 yards.
He's their workhorse primarily.
Yeah, he had a tutty, and then Kanye Roberts had had a tutty as well. And then Anderson Castle, I've never even heard of him. He had a touchdown. And then hold on. Yeah, I mean, you look at the run game for App State, and they really relied heavily on that.
That guy's name is Kanye. That is right.
Yeah,
I thought
Kanye,
his name was Kane because that was like an error I thought we had on the doc last week. But no, his name is in fact Kanye. There's proof. I just checked. But yeah, and then 3 catches each for Mekhi Jackson, Dalton Stroman, 2 guys. I mean, Mekhi Jackson's been producing pretty well, but Dalton Stroman, kind of a new name on the block. Both guys over 90 receiving yards and both had a touchdown. And I want to talk about this Georgia State team that's an offense that is just sputtered as the season's gone along. Started out the season 6-1. They're sitting at 6-4 now.
Yeah.
And Darren Granger, only 115 pass yards. Marcus Carroll, 34 carries for 113 yards. And while you discuss that, I'm going to do the math on how many yards per carry.
I think it's 3.4 maybe. But how do you? I put
3.3.
3.3. Yeah, like quick math. That's an Arkansas State education right there.
That works.
So, I put this in the notes. How do you run the ball this many times and not find success? And if you're not finding success with running the ball, then why aren't you trying to pass the ball? I mean, you're looking at his stats right now: 34 carries, 113 yards, 0 touchdowns. So how does he not find the end zone? I mean, it's just crazy. And I don't know. If you continue to run the ball like that as many times, then just look at your pass game. You saw Darren Granger have 2 touchdowns on passes.
Yeah, but it's a real struggle for them to get that passing game going. And I also want to mention this game got out 35-0. Once it got into the fourth quarter, Georgia State could not get on the board until 12 minutes left in the fourth.
Right. And so, yeah, it looks like they're relying a little heavy on the run when they got to just rely on the receivers getting open. Because they obviously are. So
yeah, and App State did just enough to clog Andrew Parker. Big game on defense, clogging the holes, not letting Marcus Carroll get to the 3rd level. And that's really all you have to do to stop this team is Darren Granger regressing as the season's gone along. And that's a guy that we had a lot of hope for at the beginning, and it just has not manifested. Another blowout. You go to the West this time, the West Side. Troy 45, ULM 14. And Gunnar Watson, decent day, 24-39, 219 yards with 4 touchdowns. Hit up 9 different wide receivers in this game. And number 1 guy, Jabri Barber, still has been his top target. As small as he is, all 5'9" or whatever he is on the outside. 8 catches, 73 yards for him. And it's this Troy defense that's still just causing teams a lot of problems. And insert Jaya right back in for the freshman quarterback that took over in his absence. And 243 yards, no interceptions. they could still only manage 14 points.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you look at this and you're like, man, Wright had a pretty decent game, but it's just defense just coming up big when it comes to like tackles for loss, sacks, and that's what you want to do if you're Troy. If you're playing a team like ULM who has not been successful in a very long time, and if you want to, I mean, I just think Troy just absolutely dominated ULM in the way that they should, you know.
Yes, and they should. And I mean, you look at the over/under coming into this game; it was Troy minus 24.
Yeah, seriously.
And just a random stat, you would think ULM would try to get their stadium as packed as possible, despite how much it looks like a high school stadium.
Seriously.
They only had 25% attendance, according to ESPN.
That's crazy.
Against the number one team in the West, you'd hope that they could have a little bit more effort, but not there. You know, Duck season down there in Monroe, people don't want to watch their football team.
Seriously, maybe that should be a talking point on next episode, like teams that maybe should drop down to, like, that are in Division I and maybe drop down to
I would argue ULM should stay where they are.
You think?
But we can leave that. I think they just need the right recruiter.
Yeah.
Because Louisiana has talent. So, getting into some of the more important games. Southern Miss coming out of nowhere, dropping the elbow from the top rope on Louisiana in overtime, 34-31. And this Louisiana team, after Arkansas State beat them, you thought they were going to be on the tightrope to try and make a bowl game, and all of a sudden they're 6 feet under. So you look at the stats in this game. I don't even want to talk about the quarterbacks for Southern Miss.
Nope.
Because, I mean, we haven't really had to at all. We've just shown our disgust.
Yeah.
But disgusting is probably the proper word to describe Frank Gore. A pretty gory performance, what he did to Louisiana. 33 carries, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. Back to what they need to do for them to have had success. And I don't understand why the coach got away from this. When you're just trying to force your quarterbacks to get going, just go back to what you had success with to get all 3 wins that you did the year before.
And you know what? It's sad to say, like, why are they figuring this out just now? Like, we knew Frank Gore Jr. is that dog in him, and this is what you do when you if Georgia State needs to take notes, this is how you execute a run game. 33 carries, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
They found the end zone. I mean, that's just crazy. In Southern Miss and Louisiana, that was just a back and forth game, and it was decided on who's going to flinch first.
Yeah, and I figured it would be a lot more low scoring because ULL having to rely on their third-string quarterback, Chandler Fields, after we saw Zion Chris go down against Arkansas State. He has been still dealing with that injury since.
And he did pretty good. He looked like a decent quarterback out there. He had a few rookie mistakes, but I think in the end, he did pretty well.
Yeah, 24-38, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks in this game, and he's not just a freshman. He's, I believe, a junior. He's been there. He's seasoned a little bit, and just a game that could have gone either way. And if I remember the stats in this game correctly, it was practically even.
Oh, with what? With what's
just like everything.
Oh yeah, it was very even all the way through. Man, I wish I had that. I wish I had it pulled up. I actually do. Let me see real quick.
It's funny. As I'm looking for it, I can't find it on this year. It's all last year.
All right,
Here we go.
So total yards, 390 each.
Yep.
Turnovers, 2. First downs,
22-20.
Yeah.
Time of possession wasn't super close. But I want to see if this breaks down. No, it's not going to break down evenly as pass and run because Frank Gore did all the running, and ULL just kind of distributed it a little bit differently. But just a game of perfectly balanced teams in the weird way that it is. I guess they had a blue moon or blood moon or something over the stadium that night.
Yeah, seriously.
Who knows? But a team that's also been slowing down as of late is Texas State. They got to go play on the teal turf at Coastal. They lost 31-23, and it's because of whatever happened to TJ Finley. Still kind of a mystery. First half in this game, it went 6 of 11 for 49 yards, and G.J. Kinney decided all of a sudden we're going to go Malik Hornsby, former Arkansas quarterback, or whatever he was, fast boy, that's what he is. And they played him in the second half, and it wasn't much better. It's just, I don't know why you go away from TJ Finley, because he has been solid. Maybe he did get injured in this game, and it was undisclosed. I'd like to lean that route.
Yeah,
but Coastal able to shut down Ismail Mahdi, and then you get to see Ethan Vasco taking place of Jarrett Guest, who took place of Garrett McCall. And, I mean, he had a decent game, and it's just...
It's defense. This game needed to rely on defense, and Coastal's was very good. 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. That's the type of stuff you need from... If your third-string quarterback is playing, your defense needs to win you that game. And even though they let up 23 points, it's just... They got the right sacks when it needed to happen. They got turnovers when it needed to happen, and I think Coastal's defense is just really helped them out this game.
Yeah, and they've had issues with defensive line getting pressure all season. And the fact that they're doing it this late, and it's something I mentioned last episode with Texas State, is this team goes how TJ Finley goes. And considering what happened in this game, it's not surprising. I'm shocked they put up 23 points, to be completely honest with you.
It's because they ran the ball, and they found the running game early, and they stuck with it. And, yeah, I mean, they got the touchdown. They got
Malik Hornsby on the ground was a lot of help there because, I mean, that's just what he does. He's not really a quarterback. He's just a guy that sits back there. You'd be better off running Wildcat. I could talk about that all day as a guy that watches a lot of Arkansas football.
Right.
So I know Malik Hornsby pretty well. And it's rough, but that gives you a lot of hope for Arkansas State coming in this next week.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Yes.
We'll get into that here in a little bit. Speaking of Arkansas State, had a chance to get bowl eligible down at South Bama. Arkansas State fell short 14-21, and it wasn't for lack of effort, but it was still for lack of something that I've been wanting to see more of, and it's Jaquez Cross carry numbers. Now, it has been doubled. We shoot some kind of confetti thing. Thank you, Butch Jones. We've doubled Jaquez Cross's carries, but it's still not enough.
It's still not
13
enough.
carries, 52 yards. Now, Zach Wallace is getting back in the game. He kind of, in the midseason, they didn't really use him as much.
Right.
I don't know if it was, trying to nurse an injury or any of those things, but he had 11 carries in this game as your Thunder to Cross's Lightning, and State's still not taking advantage of the fastest guy on the roster, or so I think.
Right.
And that bothers me so much. Rayner, 186 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, kind of costly, especially when the difference is 7 points in this game.
Yeah, and here's my analysis from that game because I watched this game, and I don't think Arkansas State knows what to do when people rush 5 or 6. Like it's literally the playbook is just non-existent when people do that, and they'll be in field goal range in that time, and then they'll drop back to pass, and here comes 5 or 6 big dudes coming at you, and you just tuck the ball and fall. I mean that's. They got to figure out something because it happens literally every single time. Rayner is in the pocket, and here comes 5 dudes rushing, or 6, off the edge, and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's basically a zero blitz. You always have one more guy.
It's basically cover 0, and they don't know what to do with it. And it's crazy because all you have to do is just rely on your receivers to get open quickly. And Jeff Foreman, if you watch the game, he was getting open, but it was too late for that. They were already getting pummeled by South Alabama's defensive line. But yeah. Yeah,
Jeff Foreman, most consistent wide receiver for Arkansas State this season. And, I mean, we've seen a lot of greats come through here. Jeff Foreman starting to show that he can maybe be that, but this late in his career, you still like to see the consistency that he's bringing. And, of course, the defense, as you mentioned, for South Alabama, 4 sacks, 11 TFLs. I'd like to see Zach Wallace get a little bit more time back there as just a pass blocker for Rayner, because Rayner's not going to have, he doesn't have the experience to make those progressions faster at the moment, especially when you're trying to speed it up with that extra pressure. We'll see how they deal with that against Texas State this week. But another random note, Damian Webb went off in this game, and I mean, that's what he is. He was a 1,000-yard rusher a year ago. He's probably going to end up with that again this year.
And one more thing, and then we'll move on. Credit to A-State's secondary. They did very good this game. They held the South Alabama's receivers very well, and that's why LaDamian Webb had the carries he did. They just wanted to run the ball with him the whole game, and yeah,
it ended up working out. Last game from Week 9, Georgia Southern at Marshall. Marshall surprisingly take this one 38-33, and Davis Brin 54 pass attempts, only completed 29 of them, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns. And you look at their receiving guys here, and there's some new names on this list. Derwin Burgess did his thing, but then you insert Dalen Cobb and Jalen Barden. Combined for 9 catches. We're going to do some quick math in my head here. 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's like, Caleb Hood, I don't really know the status of him, but 29 of 54, that's looking like a Mike Leach style offense there.
Seriously.
But for Marshall, they've had to go to their third string quarterback as well. We know that they've had injury issues there, and they didn't want to go to their backup, as we've mentioned him in episode 3, the Mr. 18 touchdown to 14 interception ratio guy. They rely on Cole Pennington, redshirt freshman. He went 75% completion, 200 yards, and only 1 interception in this game. Rasheen Ali's back, fully healthy, and he went off. But how about this DeMarcus Harris guy?
Seriously.
4 catches, 147 yards. I think Cole Pennington found his deep threat.
Unbelievable.
And that's really what it came down to. This was another game that was just kind of back and forth. Air raid attack, and Rasheen Ali was able to put this game on ice. And that's how they rolled out with a 5-point win at home. And that's a crucial one, as we'll talk about later, for Marshall against both Georgia teams in the East have just kind of been falling flat on their face.
Seriously.
As of late. And whether or not that's internal or it's because they've had to go through James Madison.
Yeah.
We don't really know. It's kind of like when you play Georgia in the East and the SEC, it's like you're more than likely going to come out flat in the next few weeks.
Exactly. And also with this game, Cole Pennington, finding DeMarcus Harris, but that was all set up because of Rasheen Ali running the ball, being effective, being and making Georgia Southern's defensive coordinators be like, hey, we got to stop this guy. And then they try and stop him. They create a defensive scheme, and guess what? You got DeMarcus Harris running downfield and as a deep threat. So way to go, Marshall. Defenses in this game were non-existent. They were not the best at all. It was just crazy. And we're looking at it too. Cole Pennington threw to 8 different receivers. As a third-string quarterback, you're being very distributive with the ball, and that's crazy to see.
Yeah, I was going to say, typically, with the quarterback that's going to get out there for the first time, you're going to identify one guy that you can have a lot of faith in.
Yes.
But, a lot of short receptions in this game, probably trying to get him going. A lot of dink and dunk, trying to get him confidence. Because when you look at the guy, the second most yards as the receivers, it goes from 147 to 15.
To 15, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, do what you got to do to find your receivers, and even if they have 15 yards, you're still finding them, and that's good for Cole Pennington as a third-string quarterback for Marshall.
Yep, a lot of momentum there for Marshall, and, well, that's all the games from Week 9, so we'll go ahead and look to what's going to happen in Week 10, and there's some games that need a little bit more discussion than others, but we'll get into that next.
ASU TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU TV today.
Here to deliver the latest news on A-State sports, ranging from football, basketball, baseball, and more.
I'm your host, Tristan Harlan, alongside your other host, Cooper Melder.
Red Wolf Roundtable is your local sports source.
Tune in to Red Wolf Roundtable to get your fix on sports talk and news.
And welcome back to Everything Under the Sun Belt. Easton, we got Week 10 preview to get into, and we got a little SEC flavor we're going to throw in here this week, and a little military salute, so to speak. But we'll start out with some of these games that might not seem as interesting. Over in Oxford, Mississippi, we got the deadbeat ULM team, 2-8, 0-7 in Sun Belt. What are they going to do over there against Lane Kiffin? This
Nothing.
game, 11 o'clock, SEC Network, Ole Miss, 37-point favorites.
This is going to be a whole lot of nothing in this football game. Unless you're an Ole Miss fan, you're going to be very happy. But if you're
There'll be a lot of drunk fans down there.
Oh,
a lot of drunk students in
Seriously.
Oxford. Not that they already aren't most of the time anyway.
Probably some are right now. Seriously.
There's you pregame a game that is just going to be such a
Terrible.
dogfight.
It's going to be terrible. That game is going to be
I don't
bad.
think there's really any analysis. You're going to probably see Lane Kiffin just get this game to a point where he can cover the spread and then it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
because
37-point favorite. Man, I'm taking the over. I mean, I'm being completely
well,
honest.
Here's the thing. A lot of coaches with a number that big would be perfectly fine with getting up by about 4 touchdowns, and then they're going to coast. That's not what Lane Kiffin does. Lane Kiffin is going to bet on himself.
Yeah.
And then he's going to get the over, and I bet this is going to be like a 63-6 kind of game.
I mean, it's illegal for that to happen, but if Lane Kiffin wants to do that, if he wants to bet a sports bet on himself, go for it.
He's going to put the bet under his dog's name.
Oh, under his dog's
juice.
Name. Hopefully, he doesn't get Calvin Ridley'd.
Maybe not. Coastal Carolina going up to play Army Coastal. 7-3, 5-2, second in the East now, with the Georgia teams falling off. This game at 11 o'clock. Coastal a 4-point favorite, and I think it's not a bigger number because of the quarterback mystery, so to speak. Vasco, he did his thing as we discussed, but he's got to go on the road now.
Right, and I don't watch a lot of Army football.
I can tell you what it is.
It's a lot of running and not a lot of passing, so Coastal's defense has to come in effect again and hold the line, and you'll stop Army. I have a lot of confidence in Coastal winning this game.
I do too, but I do like that line. I think it might be a fun game to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine it's on CBS just because it's Army. CBS Sports always gets
it's on
games.
CBS Sports Network.
Cool. The battle of the worst Mississippi schools.
Oh,
we got Southern Miss. They're coming off a win. They're 3-7, 2-5. They're going to play Mississippi State, who just fired their head coach.
Exactly.
So that's the storyline in this game. This is another 11 o'clock kickoff. Not surprising. Get this game out of the way and off the TV networks. Mississippi State opens as a 14-point favorite. But you look at Southern Miss, they're going to probably end up using freshman Ethan Crawford as their starting quarterback because Billy Wiles comes in listed as questionable after only playing some of the game a week ago.
Yikes. So what needs to happen is Frank Gore Jr. needs to get the ball 20+ times, to be honest with you.
He will, but my problem is Mississippi State's strongest position group is the defensive line. They have Nathan Pickering as a really good nose tackle they got in there. They still have, I think they have Tyrus Wheat at linebacker still. I could be wrong, but I don't really keep up with Mississippi State.
And you said this, I mean, they fired their head coach. So,
yeah, Zach Arnett's gone.
So they are struggling right now, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for Southern Miss to try and find a. I feel like they could. Yeah, I mean they could find a way to win this game, and it has to be through Frank Gore Jr. 100%.
Yep, we had a lot of discussion about whether their coach is on ice or out the door in previous episodes. If they win this game, I think the talk's right back on.
Yeah,
he might be able to stick around because Frank Gore might not be sticking around, but maybe you can save your job if you upset Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. Probably going to be a good amount of Southern Miss fans there to root for it, I'm sure. And this game just feels really weird. It's like one of those, it's a sickos game, man.
Yeah,
it's really what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tune in, but I'm interested to see what happens there. Then college game day.
Yeah.
They're going to be going to James Madison. And funny how the tables turn, as App State was the one who got game day last year. Now they get to be the face that gets pounded.
Yeah, JMU is going to have a field day with App State, I feel like. And I was watching the Pat McAfee show before we went on air, and JMU is loud, and they are ready for this game. I can tell you that their fan base is very loyal. They want to go bowling. That's what they've been chanting.
They should be the number one group of 5 team. They should be going to a New Year's Six bowl if
100%.
they go bowling.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, James Madison has done something that has never been done before, and that is a team that has come from they were FCS, right?
Yeah, they were at FCS level.
FCS school, and they come out of the gate and go undefeated twice. Or were they undefeated last year?
They lost one game. 2 games.
2 games?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're having success in the first 2 years, even being ranked in the first year as well as the second year.
Yeah, I'm curious what they moved up to in the AP poll.
I believe they're 19. I forgot to put that down in the notes. 18, yeah.
Hey.
I mean, that's crazy. And usually we'd be talking about Coastal as being that
right.
position.
And here's the thing. Coastal's getting overshadowed because they're actually, as bad as a start they had, they were 4-3.
Yes.
I think they started about to 7-3 now. It's so close to just being a Coastal team that's back on track without Grayson McCall.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because James Madison's just there. And failed to mention games at 1. James Madison favored by 9. Boy, that's a tasty number.
Yeah,
Because,
so-
I mean, App State coming off a really nice win
right.
against Georgia State. And Joey Aguilar starting to figure things out a little bit. It's too bad that he figured things out the week before he's going to have his own funeral. So my sympathies to the Aguilar family, but have fun watching your son get sacked about 5 times at James Madison.
I can never pronounce the JMU coach's name. Signetti, I think it is. He's got it figured out for JMU. Seriously, I mean that guy is a an offensive genius because he was a former quarterback for West Virginia, and he just knows what the game. He just knows football, and it's crazy.
Big football guy.
Yes, big football guy.
Man, I just feel bad for App State because it's like they were the talk of the town
Right,
a year ago, and now it's like, scoot over. We got the double-decker buses coming through, and it's got a bunch of smart people that like royalty. I don't really know, dude. It's a lot of British things that are happening with
I have
this
no
team.
idea about.
Pat McAfee will probably channel it while he's there tomorrow.
It's probably bark a few times.
Yeah, I know, right? Back-to-back weeks where he gets to bark at people. I'm sure he's happy about that.
Seriously.
I loved that bit, by the way, just to get off track.
Oh, Georgia's? Yeah, it was
I
crazy.
was say that's why Pat McAfee's there.
So successful, yes.
So, moving on, Louisiana Lafayette. Boy, do they need this one, but it's not looking good. They're 5-5, 2-4 in conference. They're going to go down to Troy, Alabama. And they're 8-2, 5-1 in the West. They seem to have it locked up. It's not sold just yet, but if Troy wins, they get the automatic spot in the Sun Belt Championship.
Yep, and I think Troy will 100% win this game on the NFL Network. So that'll be fun. Troy should steamboat Louisiana, to be honest with you. It should be a blowout. And my prediction will be right about the West being Troy. And yeah, we don't need to talk about the East though.
We're making some ground on there with what James Madison's trying to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like NCAA rules versus Sun Belt rules. It's all the same, all different. There's so many lines that are crossed there.
Exactly.
But yeah, Troy, 16.5-point favorites. That line might go up if I had to guess. But again, as we mentioned, Louisiana down to their third string quarterback. Troy's defense is going to love that. And I mean, I'd have Troy as well. And Louisiana they seem to not be a team that wants to play anymore.
Nope.
And the sad thing is they get ULM the very last week of the season.
Yeah, so they're definitely going to be bowl eligible. 100%.
But
it's going to be that'll be a good game to talk about, to be honest with you.
I disagree. Old Dominion, 4-6. They're trying to stay alive. They're 3-3 in the East. They're going to go to Georgia Southern, 6-4, also 3-3. Games at 5. Georgia Southern favored by 6.5. And looking at what just happened to Old Dominion after Liberty, they're going to have to try and get this team fired up because Georgia Southern, as good as they started this season, they're really beatable right now. They're going to need to get Keyshawn Wicks going. Old Dominion is, because Georgia Southern, they're going to go and throw this ball around a lot, which is basically what Old Dominion saw with Jordan McLeod and James Madison. So you just need to see Old Dominion come in here with some fight, because I think they can win this game and then potentially get to a bowl. And I don't know who their last opponent is, so I'm going to investigate that.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I'm going to say this. Callaway has got to get the ball a lot more during this game. Old Dominion's run defense is not the best. And Wilson, for Old Dominion, speaking of them, he has got to figure out, whenever the defense is pressuring him, to figure out a way to get rid of the ball or find a dink and dunk pass that's just for a gain of 3. Like, seriously. And that's how you win this game. And yeah, did you find it?
They played both Georgia teams in the last 2 weeks. They get Georgia State final week, but just, man, looking at it, they've played the past 3 weeks, James Madison, Coastal, and Liberty. That's tough. 3 of the best group of 5 teams.
Very tough.
And I mean, that's no surprise, especially when you look back at how this Old Dominion team started, only beating an FCS school 10-9.
Yeah, seriously.
And here we are talking about them maybe making a bowl. This is a game I wouldn't want to touch if you want to talk about betting line there. Both teams feel like they're in such a mysterious headspace. So we'll let them play it out. We'll let them bite at each other a little bit. And then Georgia State, they get the fun of going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, number 15 LSU. And this is going to be prime time on ESPN2. LSU 31-point favorites. And if Georgia State was the team that they were 3 weeks ago, this game's a lot more appeasing to me.
But now it's just like
it's disgusting. They're going to try to use Marcus Carroll, and it's going to be like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It's not going to work.
That's funny.
LSU's going to just lock him up, and Darren Granger is going to have to run around and make some decisions. He's going to have Harold Perkins giving him a lot of issues. I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
I was not expecting that. I was expecting like a battery quote, putting two negative batteries together, but a square hole, a square and a circle hole. That's funny, man.
No, that's just what it's going to be. Georgia State has offensive talent. It's just teams have figured them out.
Right.
And, man, just it blows because I really thought this Georgia State team had a chance to
seriously
be second in the East.
Yeah,
and here they are.
I had them winning. I had them winning, and now seeing them lose 4 straight games, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, LSU gonna have a lot of fun with this one, and they definitely need to this late in the season as they get set to take on the Jimbo-less A&M Aggies the week after. So we'll go ahead and get into the games of the week. We're not going to talk about Arkansas State first. You put 2 of them in there. We're going to save our team for last. We'll talk about 2 teams that are going to be brawling it out for a bowl game. Marshall 5-5, South Alabama, the host. They're 5-5. This is a 4:00 game. South Alabama 10.5-point favorites. And here we go with Marshall. Cam Fancher, he's listed as questionable, so it looks like Marshall's going to have to keep relying on their third-string quarterback in this game.
Marshall on a 4-game losing streak, Brady. I do not know if Marshall can pull this one out. I think South Alabama has got the momentum, and they have Webb with running the ball at just the game that he had last week against A-State. I mean, he is ready to go, and Marshall is going to have a tough time trying to stop that guy from running the football.
Yeah, and it was a 5-game losing streak up until they beat Georgia Southern.
Ooh.
But they've proven that they could bounce back. And, I mean, here's the thing with Marshall. Looking at that losing streak, we're going to go by the points they've scored and just go week by week here. 41, 24, 9, 6, 9.
Yeah,
nice, but not nice.
Not nice. Not nice. That is not what you want to see as a football team.
No, it's an interesting situation Marshall's got. It's so many. We've talked about how it all comes down to the quarterbacks. That's something you've hammered home about the Sun Belt that we've learned on this show. There's so many teams that have had to go to their backups and even third-string quarterbacks this year. It seems like, how many teams are there?
Exactly.
That'd be something I'd have to tally, once we get off air here.
Holy cow, yeah, there is a lot. We discussing those games from week 9, it seemed like we were talking about backups and third strings and all that stuff.
It's what it's come down to, but if South Alabama can get quality play out of Carter Bradley, I feel like I'm hammering this home every week, they'll do just fine, and you're going to see South Alabama stay second in the West if they win this. But if they lose, all of a sudden, this Texas State 6-4 at Arkansas State 5-5 game becomes a lot more appeasing to at least the outcome of the Sun Belt, because South Alabama loses, the winner of this game will take second in the West and be in a prime spot for a higher bowl bid. And the storyline in this one, Joey Hobart, Texas State's leading receiver, questionable in this game with an injury. Arkansas State starting tight end Emmanuel Stevenson, he is out for this game. Texas State favored by 3.5, and that's even after all the news of the injuries have been surfacing.
So, Brady, deep threat is gone. You said he's questionable. He's questionable.
He's supposed to suit up.
If he is not playing this game, I want our defense to blitz the house on Finley, because he's not gonna. If he doesn't,
if he even starts,
like
that whole thing adds another wrench in this thing.
Exactly. So if the backup is in, blitz. Like, do not let them have a chance.
It's not so easy with Malik Hornsby, Easton.
I know, but if you think about it, A-State just needs to figure out, stop going back in coverage, because the receivers always find a way to get open against A-State. So why don't you blitz them and put pressure on the quarterback, get them out of field goal range, do what teams have been doing to us. And yeah, defensive-wise, I think this team needs to blitz a lot more and stop relying on our DBs, who did well against South Alabama but need to figure it out still. Yeah.
You ever tried to just kill a cockroach with a shoe as it's running across the floor?
I actually tried to my first year here at A-State, and as it came out of the drain of Case Hall.
That's what Malik Hornsby's going to be. He's
Really?
so hard to stop. You can blitz everything you want. It's all about the contain.
Okay.
He understands how to get out of a pocket. He might not understand how to throw a ball in a straight line, but he knows how to run.
Right.
And that's going to be a problem because Arkansas State's linebackers are not the quickest. They're really smart, but they're
Yes.
not the quickest. And so Malik Hornsby is going to be a problem in space. TJ Finley, again, don't really know what he was taken out for. I just, without it being disclosed, probably a minor injury and just poor performance. I haven't seen anything about him, so I assume he will start. But Malik Hornsby will have his own packages. That's something that Kenny's been doing all season with Texas State. And you're just going to have to get pressure on Finley, as you said. But at the same time, while Ismail Mahdi hasn't been going a lot, he's definitely had his rushing yards sputter the past few weeks.
And you've seen
It can happen.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen A-State struggle against the run. I mean, you saw it last week. The defense is just not the greatest when it comes to the run.
Yeah, and it'll just be a matter of pick your poison, and we'll see if Arkansas State can have success and get Jaquez Cross some more carries, and maybe Jalen Rayner can have a bounce-back game.
He needs to run the ball a lot more.
It's going to be a battle of which quarterback takes more runs.
Right.
It might be. I don't know. I wouldn't want to put a bet on this game either. It scares me to death. Now, Arkansas State, I think, is going to have a couple extra points. I think the stadium might be the fullest it will be or has been all season.
This game?
I think that it might be.
A lot of students are going home for Thanksgiving. I don't know.
That's their fault, man. They're going to miss out on a chance
Man.
to see their team go bowling for the first time that they've probably been here.
No, seriously. I've been here 4 years, and we have been so bad. And I've wanted a bowl so bad.
Yep, and I think we're going to get to see it. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think we're
wouldn't
going to
bet
see
on
it. So, our debate topic for the week, as you mentioned at the top of the show, we've got early predictions, although it's not really early. It's kind of like we're almost there. The finish line's visible. For Sun Belt Awards, Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. And I also put Freshman Player of the Year in there because I want to
Freshman
talk
player?
about it.
Oh, wait. I never put that. Sorry.
No, you didn't have to. I just did too.
Extra credit. You get extra credit.
Yeah, let's do Player of the Year last. I feel like we can do that. But Freshman Player of the Year, I think it's pretty obvious, right?
You think so?
I think it is. It's
Man.
Jalen Rayner, man.
Oh, man.
You got a guy that you stick in there at quarterback, comes in, almost 2,000 yards. He'll have 2,000 yards by the end of the season.
Oh, well, yeah.
14 touchdowns, 5 picks, 333 yards on the ground, and 5 touchdowns. You're seeing that is Jordan McLeod in this offense. And looking, not to get ahead of things, but you have a lot of respect for Jordan McLeod here.
Mm-hmm.
He is just a baby Jordan McLeod as far as the stat lines go.
He could be. He's a baby goat. He's a baby goat right now.
I guess so. But that would be my pick. Just, putting that out in there into the ether. You want to do Offensive or Defensive Player of the Year first?
I'll do Offensive Player of the Year.
Okay.
I think
Who do you got?
Marcus Carroll from Georgia State. I mean, this guy is an absolute dog. I mean, 1,200 yards rushing with 12 touchdowns. I mean, this guy has been heavily used by Georgia State, and just he leads the Sun Belt with yards, when rushing yards, and I just honestly I like running backs a lot more winning Offensive Player of the Year because they have it difficult.
They do.
They have it really hard. They are getting banged up every single play, and yeah, I Marcus Carroll has been a dog for Georgia State, and yeah, it's shown in the stats.
Yeah, he's basically Derrick Henry. He's
Exactly.
a really good running back on a very mid team.
Yes.
And my offensive player is going to be Jordan McLeod. Just talked about him. 2,800 pass yards this season. You've got the stats down here. 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 310 yards on the ground. I'm shocked it's not more, but 6 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, the quarterback on the best team in the conference is always going to win something.
Yes.
Unless he's just awful or they run an option attack. I mean, even a team that, like Coastal, Grayson McCall won it 3 years in a row. He didn't pass the ball that much. They run like a little a run and shoot offense.
But
whenever they had him here, and he still did it.
It's because it is a quarterback-driven league, and
there it is.
Exactly. So, and now my Defensive Player of the Year, Jalen Green from JMU.
No surprise.
No surprise. 50 total tackles, 24 solo tackles, 15 and a half sacks, and he has one big man pick six. So I mean, this guy is out there. He is getting the job done. Leads the SBC in sacks and tackles for loss. I mean, if this guy doesn't win, I would like to question the Sun Belt Conference as a whole. So
Yeah, and that's through 8 games, we might add. He's out
Yeah.
for the rest of the season, and no one's going to catch those sack numbers. They might catch his TFL numbers, but they're not going to catch the sack numbers. And we're going to talk about another guy leading the category. My defensive player of the year, Jason Henderson, the linebacker at Old Dominion. He's been a force, and he actually had more tackles at the end of last season. So I'm curious to know if he gets to that point by the end of the yeyear. Last year finished with 179 tackles. He's 152 right now. I think he'll get there.
I like that. I like that pick.
Because you know who won Defensive Player of the Year last year?
Linebacker for
Carlton Marshall.
Carlton, yes.
So they're good. They like their linebackers that get their head in the mix a little bit. He also has 4 sacks. He's had 7 games of 15 tackles or more.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, the Sun Belt is going to praise JMU because they've gone 10-0 and they're obviously the best team right now in the Sun Belt, and so they're gonna give them a little bit of an edge, and that's why I have Jordan McLeod as my player of the year. This guy has been getting it done the past 2 years. He has 2,800 passing yards with 26 total touchdowns. You spoke on it a lot about your offensive player of the year. I just think it is when you think of an MVP, especially when it comes to the NFL, they highly praise quarterbacks. They will give it to a quarterback instantly because they are the captain of the field and the whole team. And they start the momentum. And I think Jordan McLeod is the perfect representative of a player of the year and just what he has done with this team. I know he has a great coach, but I think he's getting it done, and he's getting it done the right way.
He is. And, of course, it's just his first year at JMU.
I meant first. Sorry. I don't know why I said second year.
You're fine. I mean, he's had success at his other schools, but he also might win Newcomer of the Year, and I feel like JMU's going to get a lot of the accolades because the Sun Belt's going to be like, we know you can't make the championship game, so here's all of these pretty shiny things.
Yeah, here you go. Here's something to build your resume.
And that's why my player of the year is going to go to a guy that only has played 2/3 of the season. Hold on, I couldn't math. But Jalen Green, you've already mentioned him. I feel like there's no need to rehash it, but a dude that was on pace for 20 sacks.
Yeah, seriously.
And maybe even an NCAA record.
Oh, 100%.
At a school that is in their second year
he needs
at the FBS level.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but if he doesn't win something, there will be a lot more angry JMU fans. Not that they can get even more anger.
Yeah, seriously.
But they might have, if they get Pat McAfee on their side,
that's
NCAA better be careful.
That's a big enough representative. I mean, Jalen Green, man, he's all over the field, and so he's hurt right now. As of now,
he's done for the year.
Done for the year. I think he's got to come back, and he has got to.
I don't know what year he is. Let's do a little research.
I think he is a junior, I believe.
He is a senior, but
I'm getting my years mixed up. Then, dang.
He missed an entire year due to injury.
Plus,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, plus he could have.
So he has a medical red shirt that he can use and a COVID. So he actually has 2 more years of eligibility if he would want it.
I think he should come back and go for that NCAA record because, I mean, 15.5 sacks. I mean, that's crazy.
I don't know. He might be like a potential day 2 guy in the draft at this point.
Maybe.
I don't know his stock, but the injury's not going to help because that's now 2 serious injuries in 3 years, and you don't want to see that. But something else we don't want to see is that we're going to have to shut up.
No, darn.
We're running a little long here today, but I don't figure too many people will mind. But the sun is setting here on everything under the Sun Belt. Easton, I think this one was another successful show today.
100%.
And we're going to get ready to see what happens with the rest of this season. I think next episode 5, might run even longer than this. We're going to go ahead and get a third unnamed man in this room. And we're going to talk Sun Belt bowl games, and we're going to predict every single bowl, Lord willing. So thank you all for sticking around. I'm Brady Michael.
And I'm Easton John.
And we'll catch you guys on everything under the Sun Belt next time.